listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Welcome to Grave Discussions. I am your host, Barnabas.
And I am your co-host, the devilish Samael.
Welcome to episode 49, Love Hurts and Scars.
Indeed, it does.
And this is a special Valentine's Day themed episode. So we're going to be bringing you guys some horror movies that touched our hearts, if you will.
Aha.
Maybe literally.
Bastard.
So, we're going to be going over some pretty cool movies, including Happy Death Day to You, which just came out in theaters on Valentine's Day last week. So we're going to be talking about that in our main segment, and then we've got some other cool movies lined up as well. As always, this is made possible by the one, the only Sports Radio Detroit.
Yes, that is Sports Radio Detroit, not Detroit Sports Radio. And you can find Sports Radio Detroit on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Sports Radio Detroit. That's SRD, Sports Radio Detroit. Hi, Roger. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Raj, what's up?
I love you.
We do, though, for real.
We do.
As always, we're going to get you guys started with what's been going on in the horror world.
Much has been going on in the horror world.
There has been a lot, yeah. A lot of announcements of new things to come.
Yes. And we'll touch on 3 today. There's a lot more, but, you know.
There are more. Actually, I'll mention 2 more that I found out about just really quick. Terrifier 2.
Yes. Oh, my God, bro.
Art the Clown is coming back.
I'm really excited to see David Howard Thornton reprise his role as Art.
Yeah, dude. He's been attending all the cons, and
he's super nice.
Talks to people.
Dude, if you talk to him on Instagram or Facebook, he will like your comment and talk to you.
Yeah, most likely reply to you. He did to us. I mean, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, he's super nice.
And we have to support horror like that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Independent is, it's keeping us cult fans happy. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of, like, people who watch mainstream horror, like Insidious, might not like shit like Terrifier, but those of us that can appreciate, you know, the older, like, Grindhouse days and, like, that fucking 80s bloodbath style, like the late 80s was doing before they kind of transitioned into that 90s whodunit type of shit like Scream, as we talked about. You'll enjoy Terrifier. And if you're like a guy who likes movies like Mother, then I hate you. No, but you pretentious hipster piece of shit. But seriously though, like Independent's where it's at right now for us cult fans, and it's growing. Like the thing that's still kind of lacking for me in the independent department is like the cinematography style. I think maybe like work your angles a bit better. Like think of more effective shots for the scene that you're doing. If it's dialogue, use medium shots. Okay. If there's a killer and like you're trying to build suspense and like you're just focusing on the killer, use like lower angles, make the killer appear bigger than he is, and you know, just simple shit like that. And that's the stuff kind of not Terrifier, but a lot of independent films I noticed are like lacking in pretty decent cinematography.
For sure.
But Terrifier 2 is going to be a masterpiece for cult fans. It's going to be a splatster piece.
Yeah, something like that.
Splatster piece.
But yeah, no, it's good advice. And Damien Leone,
he's awesome.
Just finished the script for Terrifier 2, so we're going to expect it coming out pretty soon.
He posted the Terrifier 2 page today on his Instagram, and as soon as I woke up, I saw that and I followed it right away. So.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that one. Once we have more information, we'll let you guys know. Also, just touch on very briefly, Alien Isolation is supposed to be coming out with an R-rated animated series. That's kind of I'm assuming some kind of like a sequel to the game. So, pretty excited about that one as well. But the main 3 things that we have, the first one, Nickelodeon, as you all know, is going to be coming out with the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie later this year, but they are also reviving the TV series.
Looks like I gotta plug in my motherfucking cable box once again.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know where exactly it's going to be going to. It's probably going to stream somewhere. So you might not have to have cable for it.
Nice. I hope they'll have it on Hulu, actually.
They might have it on that VRV app because they have Nick Splat on there. So I don't know. I don't know, but just be aware of that. The series is coming back. There's not a whole lot of information about it right now, but once we have more, as always, we'll let you guys know. But I'm super excited about it. So the next bit of news is also very exciting, at least for us, because we like the series. But if you're familiar with the slasher series Laid to Rest, which focuses on the deranged killer Chrome Skull.
I remember that.
Yeah, then you'll be excited about this one. Laid to Rest 3 is officially coming out. It's subtitled Exhumed. And the filmmakers are actually raising money for the movie. So there's an Indiegogo campaign that's going to be starting pretty soon. You can go check it out on that website, or you can check out the Bloody Disgusting article you can get there. Basically, you're going to be able to pay to support the making of the film, as with most, crowdfunding things. But there's mention that you might be able to be killed on screen.
What?
Yeah. So there's not really any more information as to like how that's going to happen, but basically it's kind of teasing that you might be able to get killed on screen in Laid to Rest 3. I'm assuming it's going to be some kind of like donation, like tier reward. Like if you put in, $2,000 into the movie or something, then they'll like fly you out or some shit, and and you can have like a death scene on the movie. It's probably going to be more money than that, but I'm assuming that that's what it's going to be, or it's going to be some kind of raffle type thing. But I don't know, man. If I'm able to, if like afford it, or if like I win or something, I would totally love to get killed on camera for Laid to Rest 3. Yeah. So go check out the Indiegogo page if you guys want updates. And, if you're interested in donating to the film, I think I am going to donate to the film anyway, because, I like seeing stuff like this and supporting stuff like this. Like you were literally just talking about, indie film and stuff. Yeah. So this is pretty much exactly that. So be on the lookout for that movie, and keep up with the Indiegogo if you want. The next movie is the return of yet another iconic horror franchise, The Ring. And we've got a new movie coming out called Sadako.
Yes. You think this is gonna like delve into like the backstory?
It is possible. Like I haven't really seen a lot of the Japanese ones, so I don't entirely remember like the story. But yeah, it seems like it's actually going to be more of like a sequel.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I'm so sick of like fucking backstories and prequels and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
I remember I watched a movie with Mukbin recently, and he's like, "Is that the only film in the franchise?" I was like, "Yeah, they didn't make anything else." He's like, "Yeah, you think they'd make a prequel, the whole backstory shit, and then have a remake by now?" I'm like, "Yep."
You would think. I mean, they are doing it for everything. Like at this point, I feel like I know Leatherface's entire, from like the moment he was born, basically. Like I feel like I know his story because there's been so many like Leatherface things.
Well, there is two Leatherfaces. There's Bubba Sawyer, from the original series, and then there's Thomas Hewitt from the remake.
Yeah,
and I think was Leatherface Bubba?
I think so.
It was Bubba. It wasn't Thomas Hewitt, because the last Thomas Hewitt movie that came out was Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning.
Yeah, I don't know. TCM is like one of the franchises that I paid the least attention to as far as like lore and stuff like that goes.
I watched every single one of them.
I have watched them all, but I don't like readily keep up on. But I think so. But anyway, you know what I mean. Like there's a bunch of like prequel movies and like movies that share the backstory and shit like that, and about the family and everything. And there's other franchises that have the exact same thing. So yeah, I am glad that this is going to be a sequel. I'm looking forward to it for sure. And It is supposed to be out later this year. It's going to be releasing in Japan on May 24th. So expect like maybe around October or something, possibly. This is going to come out in the States.
Sick.
Oh, yeah. So we have a couple of trailer announcements to round out the news here today. The first is about a movie called Starfish. This is coming out May 28th
What the fuck is this about?
on digital and VOD. Yeah, this looks pretty crazy. It's kind of an end of the world type movie. At least that's what it seems like. It revolves around this one girl who's living in post-apocalyptic world, and after the death of like her best friend, she finds these weird mixtapes, and these mixtapes have this like really cryptic shit, but basically it like it's like predicting the end of the world, and it tells you like how to stop the end of the world. I don't know. It's like some weird like cosmic horror, but there's this really cool looking monster that's in it. So I'm pretty excited. Be on the lookout for that one May 28th on digital and VOD. The next one is a movie called Every Time I Die.
Sounds like a movie we watched recently.
Yeah. But this premise actually sounds pretty original. It involves what you think is one central character, but the premise states that it's about a spirit who goes around possessing people's bodies in order to find out like who killed them.
Oh shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because it seems like we're going to examine a bunch of different characters that the spirit possesses, and then once the spirit leaves their body, they like, you know, can't remember what happened, but there's like evidence of them acting weird and stuff, and they're like, is this me?
That sounds like it's gonna be dope.
Yeah, so definitely gonna revolve around identity a lot, I feel like, and it looks like it's gonna have a pretty cool mystery, so I'm pretty excited about this one. Unfortunately, it's only coming out at a film festival pretty soon, the CineQuest festival. March of this year basically is when it starts. I think it's like March 5th it starts, so if you're in that area, you can go check it out. There's more information on their website. The last trailer is for a movie called Treehouse, and this is the new Into the Dark original on Hulu.
I've watched like
for the month of March.
I think I only watched one of those Into the Dark things. I watched Down.
Oh yeah,
the one with the two people stuck on the elevator.
The Valentine's Day one.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was going good, but then like the twist was not like surprising. It was just like, spoiler alert, the guy that's in the elevator with the chick, he purposely trapped them both in there because he was like stalking her and he's in love with her. I thought it was gonna be some crazy twist, like he's like, I've been stalking you for a while. She's gonna be like, what? I've been stalking you for a while. And then they just
Really
like
cool.
both like just fucking, I don't know which way it would go from there.
But okay, interesting. Yeah, I haven't watched any of them yet, unfortunately, but this one is the first one I'm actually really excited about. I know I tagged you in this earlier because the trailer like just dropped today, but it looks really cool. Basically, it's got Liam McPoyle from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in it as the protagonist, so you already know it's gonna be crazy. Yeah, Jimmy Simpson. But this one looks dope. He plays this like celebrity chef or something who goes to his cabin in like the middle of the woods, so you already know it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yes.
And there's this old tree house on the property, and it doesn't really give away a whole lot more than that, but he says something about witches, so it seems like it's going to be a witch horror movie. But it actually looks really cool. The makeup effect for like whatever it is, it looks dope, and it looks pretty atmospheric, and Jimmy Simpson can really act. So
honestly, I'm sort of sick of like paranormal movies that are like, ooh, this house is haunted, but witches and cults, that is what, I mean, that's what horror was mainly about in like the 70s.
Yeah.
Before like the slasher craze kicked in the late 70s. But I mean, look at shit like Black Sunday and all those fucking movies. Like, witches and demons was like the thing. It still is today, but now like it's like haunted house again. Like,
yeah, I mean, we just had a whole episode about witch horror movies, you know.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, it's definitely still relevant, and it's going to continue to be relevant. But since this movie Treehouse is it's March themed, so it's like the Ides of March, I'm pretty excited to see what it's going to be all about. And because it looked really atmospheric. I think it's either going to be like an actual supernatural type witch horror movie or like kind of like a trippy one. I'm not sure, but
I hope it's trippy. I don't think people appreciate trippy movies nowadays because I was reading in like the horror group, like someone said like they didn't enjoy Mandy. Like
that's
what?
not even, well, I wouldn't even call that movie necessarily trippy. It's just out there, you know?
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because it's not to the point. I would consider trippy more like I don't know what the fuck is going on. And I could kind of get that vibe from Mandy, but it was still pretty straightforward, you know?
Mother was trippy.
Mother was trippy.
Antichrist was. I don't know why that movie just made me feel like just very bad. Like I felt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think like after his wife started going crazy, like you could just feel it. Like there was nothing supernatural hinted at, but like you just kind of like felt something was off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was fucking nuts.
It was. Lars von Trier is just a psychopath.
And Willem Dafoe, I'm glad he picked him because that motherfucker can act.
Oh, yeah.
He's like one of the greatest actors to ever exist.
Dude, I agree.
Especially from fucking Shadow of the Vampire. Like,
Oh, yeah.
dude was sick.
He was. But yeah, guys, go check out Treehouse. I'm gonna watch it for sure. It's coming out March 1st.
You gotta watch
on Hulu.
the Puka too.
I do have to watch Puka.
I heard
yeah.
my friend told me to watch Puka.
I really want to see The Body. That was the first one that they
That's the one we were
released, the
talking about
Halloween.
for Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're such assholes. We were telling people about that and we still haven't watched it.
I know. Hey guys, you know we're super busy and we all have our own stuff going on, and sometimes we just watch different movies. But
Yeah.
I do plan on watching it still. So I'm not just like, you know, fuck this movie. I'm just never gonna watch it.
Exactly.
But yeah, March 1st on Hulu, Treehouse. Go check it out. So that wraps up the news. As always, we are going to start with our first segment where we look in depth and, you know, recall a classic cult movie. And that segment is The Cult Corner. And in this week's Cult Corner, Samael.
We have the original My Bloody Valentine.
Oh yeah, perfect for this Valentine's Day themed episode because, you know, I was watching it last night again and I really noticed, you know, how well to the theme of Valentine's Day it actually plays. Like really the entire movie is Valentine's Day themed. It's like the perfect movie for it.
What was really attractive for me about this movie was like the setting for me. It's just
Yeah.
like the whole small town, kids from the early 80s setting. Like nothing is better than that for a horror movie.
I agree. And I mean, not only that particular setting, but the fact that it's like a mining town and you actually spend like a decent amount of time in the mines. And it's like a dark, claustrophobic setting. And honestly, it's perfect for a slasher, you know?
Yeah, it was it didn't need like really atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
because it just had the mind setting, you know, like
Yeah.
what's fucking more stressing than being stuck in some mines with a murderer.
Yeah, basically. A murderous miner, no
Yeah.
less, who you think is you know, an escaped psychopath, essentially. But yeah, and so like that part of it, just, you know, not to go off on a tangent, but that part of it I really enjoyed too was the fact that, you know, it's like the return of this old killer from basically this urban legend in this town, you know, and now everybody's like, oh, Harry Warden, you know, and they're just like terrified of him. Like that's pretty cool, you know, because there's already this like character attached to the miner, and I think the miner is a really underrated like slasher villain, like I was telling you last night.
Oh yeah, he is. He doesn't. I mean, you'll see like once in a while someone at those horror cons dressing up as him,
Mhm.
but I think most people know who the miner is. Like if you even mention My Bloody Valentine, I mean most people,
Right.
like a lot of people, at least kids. I mean like 18 to 20. Like you mention My Bloody Valentine, they'll be like, oh, the one with the guy from Supernatural. You know?
Yeah.
Not that
Like, no,
that was actually pretty good for a remake. I just
it was
didn't.
decent.
I just didn't like the whole 3D thing. If they made it a regular movie, it would have been so much better
I agree.
because it wouldn't have those like cheesy effects, like a fucking pickaxe like coming at you. Like
Yeah.
you're like, whoa.
Like I don't really want to see that much. I'd rather see it going into some guy's chest
Yeah.
and just fountains of blood coming out of him and
I'll
stuff.
just give a nod to the remake because fucking the miner, well, Dean from Supernatural,
Yeah.
he stuck a pickaxe up a midget woman's vagina and stabbed her into the ceiling.
That was pretty good.
That was probably one of my favorite post 2000s like kills in a movie.
That's like some Rob Zombie type kill shit.
Yeah, that's.
Kinda.
I was gonna say that's some like that's some Friday the 13th shit. You know what I mean?
Sort of. I mean, I guess the miner. I don't know. I feel like the miner was still really menacing in the original, but I mean, yeah, I guess they kind of made him pretty menacing in the remake. I mean, I think they basically wanted to make him Jason-esque.
I thought he was scarier in the original. In the remake, he was more like brute-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think in the original, it was just the fact that, he just like walked down the mine shaft, just swinging his pickaxe, knocking down all the lights. Then the next thing you'd spin around and he's just there gripping the pickaxe, and then he just slams it on. Like, that's pretty terrifying,
That was dope. That's another thing what the newer one was missing. That suspense factor.
Yeah.
Like it was mostly like a action thriller. You know what I mean? Psychological action thriller.
Yeah. Because in the original, like, you really felt claustrophobic when you were down there, and every time he like went out into like the town to kill somebody, it was always like a pretty suspenseful sequence. Like, it almost never broke away from that sequence. Like when he killed Mabel, like the woman in the laundromat or whatever, like that was pretty dope. And really, like, that was like the whole scene until he found her and killed her, and he was merciless, so yeah, it was cool. And like a lot of the kill scenes I thought were actually done pretty well.
Oh yeah, especially for its day and age.
Oh yeah. So I would say those are probably some of like the biggest things that really make this movie cult for me and pretty underrated. I mean, was there anything that you didn't like about the movie?
Honestly, no. This is one of those rarities of like a slasher movie where like I really enjoyed the score too. I enjoyed the score.
Even that like redneck doo-wop music that would play sometimes.
Yes. Honestly, that's what made this movie.
Yeah.
Like
it kind of made it feel realistic. I feel like almost.
This is one of those, like, I know I talk about a lot, like perfect slashers, but this, along with The Burning, and I'm just talking 80s like perfect slasher. This, The Burning, fucking Slaughter High. I loved Slaughter High. It's so bad. Friday the 13th, the first one, which is honestly, it had the same feel to it as My Bloody Valentine. At least like the cinematography and like the lighting and like the whole claustrophobia, because they're just in these small, cabins, and someone's just around the corner and you don't know who the fuck it is or why it's going on. People are getting brutally murdered. And you could tell My Bloody Valentine took a lot of Friday the 13th elements. Like, at least like the camera work a lot. Like, I don't know if you paid really like a lot of attention to it, but like the lighting and the camera work were like very similar in My Bloody Valentine and Friday the 13th.
Apart from the first person POV shots, obviously. But yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, like, just like of other than that, just the feel of it in general, and like that just goes to show you how much of an influence Friday the 13th was on like the 80s, bro. Like,
I think if Friday the 13th wasn't set in in a campground on a lake, out in the middle of the woods, it would definitely seem very similar to My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah,
so I know
seriously.
what you mean. Yeah,
there's a lot of like perfect slashers, and then there was like Silent Night, Deadly Night, that were just trying to capitalize on the whole slasher thing going on, the whole slasher craze.
Themed.
But like, see, like, I feel like people were making movies back then. Oh, this is a slasher movie. It's the 1980s. The thing to do is slashers. But The Burning and Madman, and those were different. Of course, like, they had their not cheesy, but like I want to say like goofy moments.
Yeah.
Of course, all old movies do, but like they were just much better movies than like shit like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Blood Lake and stuff that came out in like the late 80s, that like when like the slasher genre was struggling to stay alive,
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, with the music kind of made this movie more realistic. a lot of those, cheesy, goofy moments themselves are just a product of the times. I mean, that's I'm assuming kind of how people really acted back then. Not just straight up like, hey, how you doing, George? But
like, well, geez, like like Morty. Like,
yeah. But I mean, for the most part, yeah. Like every time we'd see the kids in My Bloody Valentine out at like the bar just shooting the shit, and then some drama would unfold. Like, I mean, obviously it was a little dramatized, but for the most part, I think you could kind of expect people to act that way in the 80s. So,
oh yeah, people were fucking cornballs back then.
But I was going to say, I mean, talking about influence, obviously influenced by Halloween, doing the whole holiday themed thing. And
oh yeah, of course.
I'm pretty sure that this was the first real like Valentine's Day themed, at least slasher movie. But
yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that separates it, from all the other holiday ripoffs is just that it just does it really well. I mean, even the plot, like the whole like Valentine's thing and love is central to the plot, because Axel, of course, who ends up being disguised as Harry Warden the Miner, his whole reason for bringing back the legend and donning the suit is because of jealousy, basically.
Yeah.
Over that one girl.
I like that they made, like, in the remake though, they made the killer Tom instead of Axel.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Because like they tricked us, because everyone's like, I've seen the original. I mean, I know it's Axel,
yeah.
And then it ends up being Tom, and like, the fuck, like.
That was pretty cool, and that was probably one of the first like movies I've seen that has taken that approach.
Yeah.
Probably
like the only one I've seen that.
I'm pretty sure maybe like a Giallo movie has done that before. I just can't recall, but it is pretty cool. I mean, you introduce the protagonist, and you have him go through the whole movie, and you want to root for him, and then at the end you find out like he's the killer.
I could kind of tell it was him, because when he killed the hooker and her boyfriend, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, at the beginning it shows that Dean, he was in the same hotel as the people who got butchered, the trucker and the prostitute.
Yeah.
And in the photos, it shows him walk by their room and look into the window. That's honestly when I like had my suspicions. But then later on in the movie, I was like, no, it can't be him, because this and this. He got locked in there. But then I thought, bro, I can easily put myself in a cage like that and bend that metal bar back and like make it look like I was locked in there.
Yeah. But I mean, while I like that, I do like the approach that the original took to just keeping it with, the love triangle.
Yeah.
It makes most sense to me for like a Valentine's Day themed kind of thing.
The original was much better, but the remake was like,
it was enjoyable.
Exactly. It was one of like the remakes that's like, hey man, I'm glad you didn't completely destroy this like movie and you put your own spin on it. Like,
yeah,
that was honest. Like the remake was like a solid like 7 out of 10 for me, but like the original is like at least 9 out of 10 for me. I would give it a 10, but like, fuck it, I'll give it a 10. It's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10. Remake still is like, almost 3 notches short of being as good, but still, the original one just has that to feel.
Mm-hmm.
I like the score. I like the small town setting when like, well, gee, Tom, that was sure awfully mean. Like those type
and
of
was
people.
It was like a Canadian town or something too. That's why everyone was like that. Yeah, I like the killer's MO too, with like delivering the hearts in the candy boxes. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
I think it is too.
Separates him kind of from other slasher villains.
I just like how the original spent more time in the mines than the remake too. Like,
yeah,
the original was mainly about like hey, these mines right here, and like people were climbing up them. We need to get the fuck out. Like, climb up. No, climb down. Like,
a lot of slasher movies I've noticed have kind of been in very, I would say, like comfortable settings, like like houses and stuff of that nature, even like the campground where you should feel safe. But not a lot of movies have really explored these like claustrophobic kind of places, like like an old mine shaft where if you light a cigarette you're probably gonna explode to death. So yeah, I don't know. I think more should do that. So I'm glad that this movie spent a lot of time in like the mine shafts, and yeah, I just thought it was really effective overall. So there, a lot of good kill scenes, and they were placed in like good spots throughout the movie. It was paced well. So yeah, I mean, this movie totally deserves a status.
Plus the original one, you couldn't really like guess who the killer was, honestly.
Mhm.
In the new one, it's either Axel or Tom. But in the old one, you're like, who the fuck is it? Is it really Henry Warden? Like,
yeah, they definitely made you think it was Harry Warden like the entire time. I mean, if I knew nothing about the movie, I would have expected it.
yeah,
Because I mean, I guess if you like really look back and stuff, you could probably pinpoint like, oh, Axel wasn't here at this moment in time, or he like ran off or something, and it probably connects. But you wouldn't really think about stuff like that if you're just watching the movie. You're like, oh man, fucking Harry Warden broke out of a mental hospital and now he's after these kids. So I like it. It was a good twist. It threw you for a loop, and yeah, overall, I mean, this movie kind of had all the good elements of a really good slasher movie.
it really did. It was one of few, like I said, perfect slashers for me. It had everything I wanted, had the kills, had the dope killer guys. We've never seen someone just dressed in like a fucking, that minor mask for like fucking breathing. Like I've never seen that before. And movies copied off that after that. So like we had a lot of off-brand slashers that had a similar look as the minor. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's iconic. I can't really say much more than that. But if you guys have any thoughts about My Bloody Valentine, be sure to let us know about it. But we are going to move on now to another movie that has some Valentine's Day themed kind of elements to it. It was released on Valentine's Day last week. But before we get into it, we do have to give a shout out to some other SRD shows.
All right, Fred. So the people at Sports Radio Detroit want us to cut a promo for Parsons and Slow.
Want them to cut me a check for Parsons and Slow.
Well, I've Googled some keywords, and I'm going to put them here in a promo. So here it goes. Ready, Fred?
Yeah, analytics away.
Parsons and Slow. We have the content consumers crave. Listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else that podcasts are available, or we'll kill you. We won't really kill you. Just listen to our podcast, brand new, every Friday on Sports Radio Detroit.
Okay, I'm ready to do the promo.
Oh, that was it.
Do you love pop culture? Discussions about pop culture? Ranking and rating treasured pieces of that shared culture against each other?
I mean, I do think Flea's a good bass player. He does what he does very well. And like I said, he's like a rock star, He's eccentric. And what is so funny?
I just didn't know he talked so long about Flea. I didn't know anybody had so many feelings.
I do.
So many
I got
feelings.
yeah.
Music, movies, television, food, sports, pro wrestling. We are the determination of what is over or underrated across all fields of greater cultural consumption. Subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts and Podbean, or visit us at sportsradiodetroit.com. Over Under Fair, your final word in pop cultural relevance.
Welcome back, boys and ghouls. Welcome to the main segment where we're going to be reviewing Happy Death Day to You.
aw, yeah.
So the sequel to Happy Death Day, I think done by the same director, Chris Landon. But this movie coming out last week on Valentine's Day. It does make sense. It's not wholly, Valentine's Day themed, because as we all know, the first one kind of a mix between a slasher movie and like kind of sci-fi, with Tree being stuck in a time loop, reliving the same day over and over again, being killed.
See, we didn't know it was sci-fi. We thought it was something probably like supernatural in the first one.
Yeah. We really had no idea. But this movie, without giving away what happens exactly.
We'll just talk about the technical aspects.
But this movie does kind of get into why, this is going on.
Oh yeah, it elaborates the shit out of itself.
Yeah.
Which I felt. See, here's my problem with movies like this. Give a minor explanation, so we can be like, oh yeah, makes sense. But when they start like giving us like the intricacies, like I feel like that's when I'm just like, oh boy, now I gotta now I gotta keep up with this, all these jargons and shit.
I mean, I thought that the path it took was pretty cool though. But
I did too. I'm glad it wasn't something fucking supernatural or
Yeah.
something like that.
they didn't like pretentiously, expand upon it. I don't feel like, but I mean, it was definitely, central to what was happening. I mean, pretty much the entire movie revolved around this thing that happens. And again, without, giving anything away, because I feel like it's pretty hard to talk about this movie almost without, wanting to give spoilers, but it's pretty nuts. I mean, I will say though, kind of fewer horror elements in this movie, which doesn't necessarily, make it bad, or it's not a bad thing, because we still get to see the baby-faced killer.
Oh yeah.
And there's still plenty of horror elements and chase scenes and suspenseful moments, which I think were all done really well in this movie. But there's a lot of other things at work here as well.
Oh yeah. Did anything particularly bother you without giving away spoilers?
At no point was I ever really like, I don't really like this too much. I mean, I guess maybe some of the dialogue was like a little tongue-in-cheek.
It was really funny.
It was funny, yeah.
Like very funny.
Yeah. I mean, I think as with all comedy, it's pretty easy to pick out certain lines and things like that just seem kind of like they were obviously written down and, forced sort of. But I mean, overall, there isn't really much I didn't like. I guess if I had to pick something, it would just be that, I wish that it kind of kept more to its horror roots. But again, like I said, I don't mind the direction they took it in. So
Same. But one thing I didn't like was like there was some certain points where you thought like the movie was almost over. She was gonna solve it finally, and like everything would be back to normal. But too many times was it like, aha, it's not over, and she still needs to do this. After it happened the first time, I was like, okay, cool. And then like 20 minutes of like just shit happening, and then again she tries, and then again she fails, and then again, and then again. You're like, damn, you guys made it seem like 3 times ago that it was close to ending, and then basically the first time you feel like it's getting close to the end, it's not. That's what kind of like.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I kind of feel that.
Because for real, it was like she's about to, and then boom, he comes from behind the curtains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like it just goes off in another direction for like another 20 minutes, and then finally gets back to that. Like
Yeah, there are a lot of points where
I felt like we got sidetracked a lot in that movie.
Yeah, the characters will go do one thing or try to accomplish one goal, and then when they meet back up, they figure something else out that they have to do. So yeah, I guess it doesn't really have a very linear flow.
Yeah, it was very weirdly paced. That's all I'll say. The pacing was
kind of. I don't know if the pacing was necessarily bad. I think the narrative structure was just odd.
Yeah, and and the transitions like from scene to scene, like.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'll say this much. For a movie like this that concerns this whole, like, time loop concept and all of this type of shit, all this, I don't know. I don't want to say, I was going to say something that would have been a total spoiler, but
yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, well, all that kind of stuff, like those kind of sci-fi elements, they kind of, cater to a weird narrative structure because you can kind of just do whatever you want. But still, I mean, the fact that there were kind of repetitive, I guess, transitional scenes in this movie was not something I particularly liked. You bring it up, but I mean, I still thought it was entertaining enough that didn't really matter like too much. This is a kind of movie where it definitely plays on like the twists and giving you red herrings and not really letting you in on exactly what's going on until the perfect time, so I do kind of agree. I mean, I guess one other thing I'll say is that even though this is a sequel, it kind of doesn't feel like a sequel. You know what I mean?
It feels like this should have been
like part of the first.
I was gonna say it should have been like a 3-hour-long movie.
Yeah, and so I mean, I guess I'll say it almost feels like more of like a companion piece, kind of, than than a sequel, which I'm still mulling over, like whether I think is good or bad. I mean, it's definitely interesting because I wasn't expecting the direction that this movie took to actually happen, you know?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was bad. I felt like it was overly complex
Yeah.
to the point where like it was just like, all right, come on, let's just have it. Can we just get the solution already? Like,
Kind of, yeah.
that's what I kind of felt like throughout it.
I guess we kind of did know the solution throughout. It was just more about
Them executing
attaining it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all that said, though, it's still a super original idea.
Still is, yeah.
And I still think that they executed it overall very well. Like, it was a fun movie. The dialogue was hilarious, you know. And then, talking about the Valentine's Day thing, I mean, the whole relationship between Tree and Carter was a very central thing in the first movie, you know, and in this movie, it's especially important.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that whole, love theme is a very big part of this movie, and you guys will see exactly what we mean, but I think they accomplished it really well, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It was better than I expected, but honestly, I just wish it was, like you said earlier, I just wish there was more horror.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't think that the parts that detracted from the horror were bad, like we've been saying.
No, they were super interesting.
Yeah, but the first movie definitely more, I would say, of like a horror comedy. This movie ends up kind of blending a bunch of like other genres together, you know? Like this movie, I would call it a horror sci-fi rom-com kind of, you know?
Because there were like similar horror movies, like we talked about it earlier today, like The Deaths of Ian Stone, and then there was another one called, I think, Salvage.
Yeah.
Which consists of people having to die over and over until they figure out why they keep dying.
Yeah. And, I mean, this is itself a meta movie, it's self-aware.
Oh, hell yeah.
Plays on all the tropes and stuff, of course. I mean, the whole fact that, we had a final girl who didn't really seem like a final girl, and then she evolved over time into like a really cool final girl, Like, there's just been a bunch of articles about Tree Gilman as a really cool contemporary like final girl in a horror movie. But then you throw in the fact that it's like a time loop kind of thing, and it definitely like gives it that access to all kinds of different stuff. Like you want to throw in a love angle, somehow it makes sense,
Yeah.
just because it's self-aware and it can do that. So I still think it was cool that they did it, but I would say if you're looking for more of like a raw horror comedy, then the first movie definitely does that better.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to say about Happy Death Day 2? I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it. It was a fun ride. They did some really innovative and cool stuff with it. The acting was good. The horror elements that were present were good. So I don't really have too much more to say about it.
Yeah, I don't either. I would go see it if I were you guys. Honestly, it's worth checking it out for like $7 instead of like buying the Blu-ray when it comes out.
Yeah, for sure. But I would say you do have to watch the first movie just to really get an understanding of like what's going on.
Oh yeah, no, you can't just go ahead and watch this. Like you're just gonna be like, what the fuck's going on? Why is she acting like this? Like,
Yeah.
You will not know how important Carter is and her like relationship with him and all that. Like,
yeah, or why she's acting like, oh, not again.
Yeah, exactly. And this just really expands upon that. So go check out Happy Death Day to you, and go buy Happy Death Day. It's like $10 for the Blu-ray. Like the DVD is probably even cheaper. So
it's worth it. It's good. But yeah, okay. So
physical media forever.
Okay, so if you had to give a final score for Happy Death Day to you,
7 out of 10.
Okay, all right. That's
I
pretty fair.
liked it just as much as I liked the My Bloody Valentine remake. We'll put it that way.
Okay, yeah, I think I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 or something.
Yeah, so
it's not a perfect movie. Definitely not a perfect horror movie, but what it does really well, and it's super innovative. And I mean, I think that this is if they decide to like continue making Happy Death Day movies, I think they could probably get away with doing a bunch of cool stuff with it.
I think so. They would just like, I would tell it from like, the next one's probably gonna be from Carter's perspective.
Yeah, I really don't know. I will say this much. There is a post-credit scene, so if you do go to the movie theater...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, be sure to check out the post-credit scene. So I won't really say too much, but it may or may not be setting up a sequel or spin-off of sorts. So yeah, go check it out. If you do see it pretty soon, let us know what you guys thought about it. All right, so in this next segment, the final segment in this episode, we're going to cover a movie that just came out pretty recently on streaming services, and we're going to let you guys know if you should watch it or not. And we're going to do that on The Chopping Block. And on this week's Chopping Block, we have Don't Knock Twice.
Yes. I accidentally found this movie probably like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
This and Lights Out, I both found them on the same day, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch them both. And I was like, holy shit, that was great. The thing that really interested me about this movie was the fact that it was about like a witch.
Yeah.
You know me and witch movies. So this girl and her like friend, he's like this fucking British guy. She's British and then her mom's American. So she's like, honey, I want to get to know you again. She's like, you left me when I was a little girl. You know, like
Yeah.
you're just like, oh shit, you know, why is her mom like super like fucking Yankee, you know, and she's like a fucking Brit. And then, you know, we learn that she like abandoned her kid or whatever because like drugs and art and stuff or
Yeah.
whatever the fuck. You know, you wouldn't understand. You don't have kids. Yeah, I wouldn't fucking do drugs and leave them to go do art because I'm not a piece of shit, pretentious artist piece of shit. But anyway, so her daughter goes with her friend and they go to this house. Oh, if you knock twice on this door right here, and the witch gonna come kill you, you know, like,
Yeah.
so
It's like this whole... again, this is like a whole like urban legend
Yes.
kind of horror movie, which I
is,
really like.
which is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So they knock twice, and then later on they go home, and you know the black dude's in his house, and he hears 2 knocks at his front door. He goes and he looks in the hallway, and there's like this like demon thing, like it had like the perfect guys. It had the claws,
Mm-hmm.
the fucking skinny body, and like
Yeah.
it was just standing there with like fucking the light reflecting shadows off the floor, and it was just like the music that played when we first saw it too was like it was like
Yeah.
that like end of the world trumpet kind of noise. And then like all of a sudden there was someone in his room like,
Mm-hmm.
get out. And then he just got fucking attacked, and then he died clearly. But then, you know, we fast forward to the girl. Now she's getting haunted by the Baba Yaga, you know, and then
Yeah.
which is an old like Slavic fucking. We've all heard of her growing up. All of our parents, if you don't listen, the Baba Yaga is gonna come get you. We're like, what the fuck
Yeah.
is that? You know, like
This isn't something that hasn't been done before, but I still thought that they executed it pretty well. It does kind of still have that same sort of, I guess, style or vibe to it, much like, you know, Insidious or other movies of this type. I guess I'm thinking of stuff like The Midnight Man and
even Lights Out was like
Lights Out.
almost the same like type of like demon thing.
Kind of, yeah. Slender Man, you know, stuff like that. Mara. I mean, it kind of makes sense too because Javier Botet plays the monster in all of them. You know, the big
Really?
skinny guy. Yeah,
Oh, shit.
the skinny lanky character actor who he plays in Wreck as well. Actually,
Really?
yeah, you'll see. But
Oh shit.
I know. But yeah, he is I guess the Baba Yaga in Don't Knock Twice. But so he obviously does a great job. But I think that this movie, despite having that kind of familiar tone to it, still managed to impress. I mean, the actual scenes where you could see the monster or whatever, you know, or those suspenseful scenes where just crazy shit was happening. I thought that they were done pretty well. You know, the lighting was good and throughout a lot of the movie.
It was a really atmospheric movie. Like people don't give it enough credit for like the atmosphere. Like you could literally cut the tension with a knife. Every time you think the demon is around the corner
Mhm.
and some weird shit starts happening, the movie gets really, really intense. Like almost immediately, like it goes from 0 to 100. Like
Yeah.
maybe with like fucking 20 seconds of suspense, and then here comes the fucking like
Yeah. And I mean, I will say there was some pretty good mystery
Oh yeah, the
behind
twist.
the plot.
The twist was good. I really liked the twist. I don't know why this movie gets hate. It's all the jaded '80s horror fans.
Yeah.
This is garbage. Nightmare on Elm Street was better. Yeah, clearly it's better, but this movie did a lot of other things better.
Yeah.
Like one, cinematography. Like
Yeah.
people think it's not that big of a deal, but it really is. '80s movies, I wouldn't say they're better. They're like not the same as modern movies,
Yeah.
but like they're not necessarily better. People are just jaded because of nostalgia. That's all it is. Like if this movie came out in the '80s with this kind of like production value, people would shit their pants. People who grew up watching '80s movies like can't handle movies like this. Like these movies are too much for them.
Yeah.
Honestly, like in terms of scariness, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you watch '80s horror movies and it's like, oh yeah, that was a fun, enjoyable movie. Like like let's say Night of the Demons,
Mhm.
right? But it's not scary. You don't watch Night of the Demons to be
Yeah.
scared. You watch it to enjoy it. But this movie will fuck with you, I think.
Yeah, I think it definitely had some pretty creepy moments for sure, especially at the end. I like that whole part where you could like actually, but I guess one of the biggest things that I didn't really like about this movie is just I don't think that this movie like narratively flowed very well.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
I felt like it was all over the place.
Yeah, the writing was kind of lackluster.
The dialogue was not bad though. The dialogue was
Mhm.
pretty decent, but I agree with you. It was kind of like here and there, like all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, we kind of picked this movie today too because with the mom and the daughter, how their story kind of begins and unfolds. There's a very obvious theme between them of familial love that is not like reciprocated,
Yeah.
like they're trying to mend this like broken bond. And as you might expect, as the story goes, they explore all these feelings that they have for each other, many of which are not good.
Yeah.
Especially from the daughter's perspective, because her mom left her. Obviously I would be pissed too. But the movie explores that, so it's definitely more about them finding their love for each other again. But it's not like overwhelming, I don't think. Although I wasn't super convinced between their chemistry that much. I don't know if it was because one was American and the other was British. Not really, but
It just made it fun. She wouldn't call her mom by her name. You left me when I was a little child. She's like, but honey, I love you. It doesn't fit.
Yeah, there's kind of like a disconnect. I mean, it's kind of a cool decision writing wise, but
if my kid was English, I wouldn't love him less. But I'd be like, hey kid, you talk weird. We're from the States around here, all right?
yeah, we talk American here.
You damn traitor. Like,
But no, I mean, I don't know. I think as actresses, I just didn't really feel
There
like
was
they
no
connected
chemistry, no.
very well. Yeah, but I mean, I think on an individual level, they both
they did good, yeah.
had good performances, and overall, I mean, I think the performances just in general were pretty good, especially from that weird what was she, Ukrainian or something that one lady.
I think she was.
Like she was some kind of gypsy or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
she was definitely, I think, Romani or something like that.
Something, yeah. But I mean, pretty convincing performances. It wasn't unscary, if that's a word. But it, again, like I said, it definitely has that kind of familiar tone. If you've seen like Insidious and stuff like that, you've definitely seen this movie before.
Oh yeah.
And I guess I would say one of the biggest detractors for me is that throughout the movie, the story can kind of lose you sometimes, and the characters can kind of lose you sometimes. I wouldn't say that they were necessarily like boring, because I think what happens with like the twist and those characters, I think that's pretty cool, but I didn't like really care about all the characters that much. So this movie's strengths are definitely in the actual horror scenes with like the monster. And I think for those scenes specifically, you should definitely check this movie out.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like, if anything, fuck the story. Just I mean,
I know.
kind of pay attention, because the twist is everything.
Yeah, it's still important.
The
but
killer guys though is the most important. Like,
Yeah.
she is scary as shit. Like legitimately, this is other than Pumpkinhead and The Unnameable. This is one of the actual like scarier movie monsters.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Besides the bitch from Lights Out and the dude from Bedeviled was all right. We just didn't see really enough of him. I feel.
Yeah.
They just kind of like he just kind of manifested as other people, and the Crooked Man was
Too much CGI.
yeah, and then
But-
the Bye Bye Man. Like it was fucking dumb. Midnight Man though, that was dope.
No, I think the creature design for that one was actually pretty cool. Yeah, but I'll agree. I mean, I think that the creature in this movie was definitely one of the creepier. That's why I like watching it. I mean, when we rewatched it recently, I was still impressed by it. You know, it was
I always am. Yeah,
sufficiently creepy.
I think I watched it like 4 times so far. So
Yeah, and it's entertaining. I mean, you know, like I said, even though you can kind of get lost in the story and the characters, it's still a good horror film, especially like one to turn on kind of late at night, you know, and to experience all the tense, suspenseful scenes in the movie. They're pretty good.
honestly, the best way you can enjoy this movie is like by yourself or with your chick or your guy, whatever. Friday night, Saturday night, and then watch this movie. You're gonna feel super paranoid.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel even more uneasier. Like it just adds to like the movie. Honestly, do it.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely not Chopped.
No, hell
You
no,
should
it's
check
not
it
Chopped. This is another 7 out of 10 for me because I thoroughly enjoyed this and Lights Out.
You know, in comparison to like Happy Death Day to You, this movie not really the most original, but
No, this
it was
is
definitely
more.
enjoyable.
This was more fun.
yeah. So the movie was just recently released on Netflix, and it's trending over there. So if you have Netflix, you should definitely check this movie out. Consider making it part of your weekend.
Definitely should.
Yeah. So that is pretty much going to wrap it up for episode number 49. Next week, tune in. We've got a special episode. We're going to be talking about horror at the Oscars. So be sure to tune in next week.
On Crazy Discussion.
This has been an SRD production.